My name's Alexis Feliciano, and I'm a first grade teacher at Eagle Academy. So far, I think it's been good. I've had the chance to explore a lot of different apps and processes for how to teach technology, and I've really gotten to reflect on the importance of the role of technology in education and how to go about teaching it. Sure. So I think that technology is really crucial in early childhood education. I think we're living in a increasingly technological world, and so many careers and so much of our life is centered around technology. And so I think it's really important for students in early childhood education to become literate in that technology, and that starts from the moment you first pick up your first device. They're doing well. They surprised me at the beginning of the year. They came in with almost like an innate sense of how to hold a device, how to touch and interact with it, but I also had to think about how to teach them the why we have these devices. I think especially at Eagle, being a first grade teacher, they have experience with iPads and smart boards from pre-K if they've been here for a long time. So they have a sense of like how to interact with it, but they don't always get a chance to reflect and think about why it's being used. One thing that my students struggled with at first was just knowing how to like log in to an app, knowing what a username is and what a password is. I remember asking them once, what is your username for Alexia? And they didn't understand what I was asking them for. But after they got used to that, then I was able to get into more complicated things with them. And I think it's interesting. I was expecting them to struggle with apps that were almost simulating like real objects that we have. So we have a drawing pad app, which is basically just replaces pen and paper or crayons and markers. And I was expecting them to struggle with it, but without me even explaining it, they knew the purpose of it, that you were to write with it and then you can erase. And even though I had to show them like how to go about finding the tools, they knew what it was for. Like once they saw the eraser icon, they knew, oh, that's to erase something. I found the ability to brainstorm with my fellow teachers and to think through how to teach a particular app or a particular device has been really helpful. Like having that reflective time to think before I teach something, what will students struggle with or what might they excel at, and bounce those ideas off of my fellow teachers has been really useful. Because I feel like I don't always get the time if I'm just planning by myself, I don't get the time to really sit and think about it. So one thing that I did, another app that I've like really explored that I wouldn't have otherwise for the Tech Mentor program is the Book Creator app. And I first got the chance to use it in one of Tamara's trainings. I think the very first one we had, she like mentioned it, and then when we had our first Tech Mentor training, we really explored it and like made our own book. And I immediately thought about my kids, but I was a little overwhelmed with it because there's so many different things. So I decided to teach it first in a small group and try it out with like 1 or 2 students. And it was awesome because they were already doing like an author study with their book, and they were already going to create their own book. So I just extended it one step further by having them, after they wrote it out on paper and designed their book, then they could actually make it, which they really enjoyed. And it surprised me because I think one thing that I wouldn't have thought about if I wasn't in the Tech Mentor program is how a student's ability to do something on pen and paper doesn't always translate when they're working with technology. So like I was working with a student that is working on a 3rd grade level, and they always, when they write, put capitals and periods and have really great sentence structure, and then when I asked them to do this book, all of a sudden there were no capitals or punctuation, and things were like a little bit out of order. And I realized after talking with the student that it was because they didn't know what a shift key was, and they didn't know that you had to press that in order to capitalize something. So I think a lot of the apps that like I've seen them use before, like Lexia, which they have experience with, but it's not always having them produce something. It's like producing letters or, you know, giving a response, but it's not as creative. And so I think this is like the first time they've been able to create stuff with technology, like completely on their own.